Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining my room. My name is Olivia, and I was a UI UX design fellow for the City of Austin, Texas's Department of Transportation and Public Works, where I worked on their data and technology services team. And this summer, I spent some time researching and designing features for a new map that's just launched on Moped, which is a digital project management tool for the department. So I'll start off with a little bit of background and context. For those of you who aren't too familiar, Austin is a city that has experienced significant population growth in recent decades due to a thriving tech industry, a big cultural scene, and generally a high quality of life. So its traffic and mobility related infrastructure projects have grown along with it. Some of these might include installing a new pedestrian hybrid beacon, or planning a new bike path in order to connect Austin's trails networks to neighboring cities. And Moped allows Austin's Transportation and Public Works Department to track these mobility projects, as well as their data attributes. So Moped was originally created to centralize project data, standardize project tracking, and integrate with existing platforms. And the Moped map, which was recently launched on Moped, represents the projects on Moped through an interactive map that you can scroll through the entirety of Austin and click into projects. And previously, the Moped map was external from the platform, so it had its own design system and layers, but now it's integrated. However, the Moped map has not yet been tested, and not many designers have worked on it, which is where my work comes in this summer. So I focused on evaluating the usability of the map and making design improvements to it informed by this research. So I participated in an agile development process that my team worked in, and I got to engage in 5 two-week sprint cycles. I worked closely with my supervisor, Patrick, and developer and product manager for Moped, who has been working on Moped since its very beginning, Mike. And throughout the summer, I attended some ongoing user group meetings that went on in each sprint cycle, where I got to present some of my progress and get some feedback from users of Moped. So quickly going over some of my research, I'll do a little testing overview. So my objectives for my testing this summer were to just evaluate the overall usability of the Moped map, and then also identify and compare different Moped user groups and use cases. And I ended up testing with 8 Moped users, so 8 different people in the transportation department, and they spanned across 4 different divisions and represented all levels of proficiency from novice to expert. And the methods I used were a survey to gain some pretty basic quantitative data and demographic information. And then my main method that I used for most of the testing were think alouds. And for those of you who don't know, think alouds are where I give users tasks and they verbalize their thoughts as they move through the interface. So here's a quick image of what most of testing looked like. So I met one-on-one with each of the 8 users, and for around 30 to 45 minutes, they completed their Think Aloud tests. And now going into some of my insights from the tests, I'll first start with some of the broader insights I learned about Moped that was valuable for the long-term project and understanding the product as a whole. So the first thing I learned a lot about was Moped's use case. I learned that Moped is primarily used as a communication tool to enhance transparency within the department. And its use cases fall under 2 types of communication. That's internal division communication, so communicating about projects within your division, and then external department-wide communication, which is using Moped to coordinate with other divisions and communicate with the department as a whole. So oftentimes this looked like understanding what projects might be located near yours, what projects might impact yours, and then looking for opportunities for coordination, like consolidating resources. Oftentimes that was funding, opportunities to work together, and also identifying and avoiding potential conflicts. And then the next theme I learned a lot about were Moped's tools and features. So while most users use Moped for the same reason, communication, the way that they sort of got there and the paths they took were a bit different. So the way that its features and tools were employed sort of varied across divisions, roles, and personal preferences. This allowed for a great flexibility of use of Moped, um, since its tools and features were quite bare bones and didn't do much to guide user behavior. And then the last insight I got from my research that my team was particularly curious about was data quality. Since a lot of users use Moped in very unique ways, I think my team was really interested in understanding if the current users who are using Moped wanted more user groups to use it and more data on the platform, since that would complicate some of Moped's tools and features. However, I found that the general consensus was that the long-term goal for most users was to get more data on Moped and understand the full picture of TPW project data. And the last theme specifically about the Moped map that I learned about was that maybe it's a bit obvious, but I think the main benefit I found from the Moped map was that it represented Moped's location data visually. So amongst many use cases, visual data was a lot easier for users to digest than list view data. And the Moped map generally enhanced that external department-wide communication use case by helping users quickly identify what projects were located near theirs so that they could find somebody to contact to begin that coordination process. And now moving on to my final design improvements. Going into prototyping, I wanted to try and answer the question, how might we better integrate the Moped map into Moped by enhancing the continuity and comprehension of data across various views? So really connecting to that last insight about how Moped introduces this visual representation, or the Moped map introduces this visual representation of Moped data into the platform. There were a lot of pain points surrounding users trying to understand this new visual representation, since previously most of the data on Moped was represented in a text-based or list view format. So the first pain point I targeted was the toggle that triggered the transition from the list view to the map view. Users found it a bit disoriented to switch between the list view and the map view and didn't really realize that both represented the same data, just in different formats. And I found that this sort of disconnect happened when users had to switch from one static page to the next. And the text-based format in the list view was reintroduced as the sidebar in the map view. So to create a solution to this, I designed instead an animated transition from the map view to the list view. So it would transition into a split view versus two static screens. And this transition sort of helped users visually associate the two types of data. And next, when I introduced the split view to Moped, my team was really interested in being able to customize that split view. So after some iterations, we decided that breaking up the screen into thirds was the best option, and using carrots to be able to customize the screen and the screen's ratios was easiest for users. And then the next pain point I wanted to talk about was isolating projects on the map. So users, again, found it a bit confusing to isolate projects on the map because there wasn't great enough feedback when you clicked on a project in the map to see it in the sidebar, and also clicking in projects on the sidebar and not having enough feedback in the map. So this is actually an interaction that I borrowed from another part of the interface, but just having a simple bar to highlight the project from the list view and map view. And now going into some of the impacts and takeaways from my project. the first thing I wanted to touch on was discovering the moped map through design. I was one of the first designers to do an in-depth evaluation and user test on the moped map after it was launched. So I think I was able to provide valuable insights not only for that informed my design recommendations and suggestions, but can hopefully be referenced by the moped team long term. And I think it was really great to be able to demonstrate the value of design to my team for this product specifically, but also for all of DTS's projects. And then the next impact I wanted to touch on was enhancing data quality. I think that what Moped and the Moped map is really all about is providing a way for the department to more easily communicate with one another and share data. So it was really cool to be able to leverage design to further this goal by helping empower users to input more accurate data and also use design to make that data more accessible. And sort of connecting to that point, I was also able to help improve the lives of Austin residents, I think. By increasing data quality, I was able to help improve the workflows of the department, therefore improving Austin's mobility infrastructure and the lives of Austin residents. At the end of my fellowship, I was lucky enough to visit Austin, and it was cool to just walk outside and see all the infrastructure that likely began as a project on Moped. And now moving on to my takeaways. The first thing I wanted to talk about was that good design isn't always noticeable. I think that coming from design school, this is something you often hear, this idea that good design should be unobtrusive and should integrate seamlessly into people's lives. And I guess this is something maybe I already knew, but I wanted to highlight that this project, I think, was a good reminder of that. I guess throughout the process, especially towards the end, I had some doubts about whether my tangible final product was sort of like extensive enough or big or flashy. But I think my mentor and my team helped me realize that a lot of the work is in the research and iteration that allowed me to more confidently and more responsibly give recommendations to my team and make design choices. And I think in the feedback I got from my team, the research and the process and me being able to demonstrate the value of design thinking was one of the more valuable parts of my contributions. And then next, I wanted to talk about learning to prioritize impact, especially in this project. I think that I sort of have a lot of designers have this urge, especially maybe a designer fresh out of school, to switch everything up. Um, and I think it's true that from purely a design standpoint, that maybe X, Y, and Z um, might need to change, or maybe the interface needs a full facelift. But I think that I learned that if you want your work to be implemented and useful to users, you really have to balance those design ideals with the circumstances of the problem space. And I think a lot of my work this summer wasn't just about design, but it was a lot about learning how to meet people in the middle in order to make the greatest real world impact that I could within this short time. And then lastly, I just wanted to touch on being able to learn from this multidisciplinary team. I think I was, as a designer, able to sharpen my data visualization and interaction skills and learn a lot about designing for map UIs. I think as a product designer with a visual design background, this was a really perfect role for me. And I learned that I really do enjoy designing for large data sets and using design to bring people closer to information that can help them engage more critically with their world and their work. Yeah, so that was it for me. Yeah, thank you to my City of Austin team and also my Coding It Forward team. I will open it up to questions now.
I have more of a comment than a question, but really relatable on the aspect of like that user research portion and really trying to like illustrate to like other stakeholders or other parties that this information is vital. And it's always a big challenge coming from here, from at NYCBCP, and I think you visualized it pretty well. So great job.
Hey, Olivia. Really nice. Thanks for all your help on our team. I really wanted to highlight like all of the user research that you did. You did a really deep dive. One of the cool things that I think you uncovered was just some of the key differences between how novice users and expert users of Moped interacted with the platform. So my question to you is, how did you approach designing for these various levels of familiarity?
Yeah, I think that one, oh, I guess I don't have that long to say. Um, but yeah, I think it was really just active